After 6 months of hard-fought racing action, it comes down to just one final race. 195 miles and 130 laps remain. It's season number 4 of the TNGG IEL Truck Series season. My name is Ola Rempel, along with Mike Braun, and we are bringing you the IEL Championship Night 195 from the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Welcome to Green Flag TV. It is going to be a fun-filled race tonight, and one that Aaron Raymond's able to cruise down Easy Street, along with him locking out the championship last week at the Worldwide Technology Raceway. I think with all of that said and done then, Mike, tonight's race, one more about the fun and going for some last-minute glory.
Nolan, I think tonight's going to be a great night of racing. We got 20 trucks in the field right now. This mile-and-a-half Speedway is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot different than last week, where we had the real interesting kind of odd-shaped track of Worldwide Technology. But this track being a mile-and-a-half long, the turns are progressively banked, so 18 degrees down low and 20 degrees up top. So that you see some guys trying to run that top line, trying to carry a little bit more speed down those long turns right there. But I think we're going to have some really good racing. Like you said, Aaron Raymond already got the points championship. He's got nothing to lose now. He can go all out or nothing. But you see some lap times around there right now. But as you're looking at the points, you see Aaron Raymond with that victory. Wrapped it up last week, 1,652 points, up ahead by 90 points on Christopher Howell by the Average Joe Motorsports. And then Brad Slagle finished up in the second spot, also with Average Joe. And then John Boalda Jr. sitting in fourth, Thomas Lane Jr. in the fifth spot. So we got a good field of guys. Everybody's spread out quite a bit. A lot of the lower points championship battles are still up for grabs, but still should be a great night of racing.
Yeah, the first points spot that's actually even capable of being swapped around right now with how the points shake up entry tonight would be the likes of Bill Hales and RJ Buchanan for the number 12 spot. But the top 10 in points are effectively set in stone as they are, which is it's nice. It makes it easier for us when it comes to tracking math throughout the course of the race. But the championship as a whole, it's been a long one and a very hard-fought one. I mean, we may have only had, 25 trucks at our peak in terms of field sizes, but there have been 67 trucks in total that have made starts over the course of a long, long season. So it's been a phenomenal season overall, and I think everybody in this championship that's been here from start to finish is super pleased with how this one has panned out. Even if you weren't the ones taking the win, it's been pretty much recognized that a deserved champion was indeed crowned. You have to wonder, though, if Christopher Howell had not missed those 2 races, considering he had far more top 10s and far more top 5s than Aaron Raymond did, how close would that points battle really be if they were equal on race starts?
No, absolutely. Yeah, those two races that he missed, it really dipped into that 90 points difference. He could have been, battling with Aaron that top spot. We could have came down to this last race and had a knockout, drag out last race for that points championship. But Aaron Raymond, well deserved with those 8 wins. A third of his races that he ran, he won. So I mean, that is a very impressive and a very well deserved championship.
It goes to show, right, the consistency versus the wins. I mean, Aaron Raymond, we mentioned before, he's got, 8, 9 wins so far in the season. You mentioned winning a third of the races he's entered. Christopher Howell has won twice throughout the entirety of the season. And yet, despite that huge discrepancy, Christopher Howell has only finished outside of the top 10 in about 3 of the 20-some stars that he's made so far all season long. That's not a stat that Aaron Raymond can compete to, as he's found a lot more races where he's been crashed out and has been forced to watch from the sidelines. That's where the difference has been made up in terms of the consistency. So Howell has had the consistency, but Raymond's had the all-out pace, albeit maybe lacking some patience at some venues, which is what has contributed to some of the incidents that have seen him taken out of contention. So that combined with bad luck, it's a very interesting dynamic that we were able to see kind of pan out throughout the entirety of the season. And I'm willing to bet with both Raymond and Howell, as it stands, unofficially slated to return for Season 5 come February, I'm willing to bet that we're going to see that dynamic play up again when we go racing back for Season number 5 in this championship.
Oh, I have to agree, and including some of the other late comers into the season or into the league towards the end of the season. You got Scott Rankin that's joining the field, and he's been on top and just running as fast as these guys as well. So that adds another mix into the field for next season, totally.
Qualifying is complete. We'll take a run of what your starting grid is going to be looking like as we will get set to go racing for 130 laps, 195 miles from the Homestead-Miami Speedway. On the pole, it will be Wantagunta's Scott Rankin, lining up beside Aaron Raymond for the pole sitter on the outside row. Brennan Gregg and Paul Witt will be back on row number 2, Julian Ballou and Christopher Howell on row 3. Row 4 holds Thomas Lane Jr. and Trevor Trago, Caleb McNeil, and Mike Allen round up the top half of the field.
On the 6th row, you've got John Halliday on the inside, John Bawalda Jr. on the outside. In the 13th spot, you've got Casey Ellis with Bobby Blowers next to him. Dale Rapp in the 15th spot. 16th on the grid will be Ryan McRoberts. 17th on the grid is Greg Pillar and Robert Jordan starting right next to him. Then you got Tristan Bear in the 19th spot, and starting scratch to the field, the Average Joe Motorsports number 1052 of Brad Slagle.
So that is all the drivers then lined on up and just about ready to go. We're waiting on 3 names as of now before we'll get to full green flag racing action. You mentioned one of the drivers going to be looking to return would be the likes of Scott Rankin. And I was actually talking to Scott earlier in the week, and he's confirmed that not just him, but the entirety of the Wantagoon squad will be out in full force next season looking to contend for championships. So that will include the likes of drivers like Trevor Trago and more that have proven themselves capable of battling for positions early on. And it could be a hard-fought fight ahead of these guys, and they'll be looking to try to see if they can put the challenge forward towards Aaron Raymond, Christopher Howell, and more. I know Badger Racing considered showing up here full-time with the likes of Ryan Dingler and Matt Cherry, but it sounded like they may be more part-time basis over the course of the next season as well, just due to the time constraints of the Saturday night tending to be a fairly busy night for all involved, but we'll obviously still enjoy seeing them out whenever we get the chance. But you can see your field rolling off of pit road. All 20 trucks have gridded up, so it'll be a fully packed grid when we work out of turn 4.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, as we talked last week with the cold tires and coming on those first couple laps. As we were watching some of the practice earlier on, some of these guys were really chasing the tail end of these trucks around early on in the run. So this could be an interesting first couple laps. I mean, hopefully it turns into a race like last week. Last week's race started off a little rough at the start, but then we went green flag for like 100 laps. So this race is going to be a little different with some drafting and really hanging on to each other down the straightaways. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but I look forward to this. This should be a good race.
When the Speed Cup Series ran here on Thursday night, it was a fairly hectic evening, and we saw a fairly big cautious string early on just because of the nature of cold tires at a track with progressive banking like this. We'll see if the TNGG IEL Truck Series can avoid that early caution play here as well. Pace car is off. We're into the restart zone. Green flags in the air. We're racing for the final time in Homestead-Miami.
Good side-by-side action going into turn 1. You got Aaron Rankin in the 49 leading the way right now. Aaron Raymond just diving into that second spot, sitting along the high side. So you've got Brennan Gregg going on the inside, side-by-side as they go 2 by 2 down that back straight into turn 3.
Brennan Gregg trying to take away the number 2 spot early on for the Good Wrench Silverado as Scott Rankin, the pole sitter, breaking clear of this field by about 2 truck lengths already. Working out of turn number 4, and it will be Raymond who will lead this field to the first lap to green. A clean opening lap. That's more than the Speed Cup Series could say, as they had several wrecks before they could even get through one lap of green flag racing. But you got the likes of Ballou, Paul Witt, and more all packed up line astern. For the most part, looks at the field trying to single file out early, save for these guys running in the top 5.
Yeah, you got a couple stragglers running that low line right now, but it seems like all the single line guys are running that mid line right now, which is, you know, where like we said earlier about the progressive banking. That's a little bit more banking up there as everybody starts to tuck in, like you said, nose to stern, coming down that front straightaway. Aaron Raymond looking on that inside, trying to make that inside line stick as the tires start warming up just a bit, hiding that inside paint strip. Able to take over the lead as they're heading down the back straightaway. He is side by side right now with Scott Rankin as they're coming into turn 3.
Rankin's got the advantage, though, about how the outside line can be so important when it comes to making defensive positions, but you got to make sure they can't clear and slide up from the bottom. That might be what Aaron Raymond's trying to do. He'll do exactly that. Rankin immediately cuts down low with the run, trying to go for the good old crossover down into turn number 1, and it looking like Rankin might be able to pick off Aaron Raymond here, but now it's Raymond on the top. if I know Aaron Raymond, he's not going to let that lead go easy now that he's got it. And sure enough, Raymond will clear for the race lead early on lap number 4.
Diving down into the 3, you still got Scott Rankin on that inside trying to make that run, but Aaron Raymond starting to pull away just a bit. Got about a half a second difference between those two right now as they come across the line down that front straightaway. Side by side in that second spot now, Brennan Gregg in the 27 truck up into second. Rankin dropping back to third, still sticking to that low line right now. He's got a little friend down there with Paul Witt trying to get a little draft, but Paul decides better to get in line with those guys up on the high side. That seems to be that quicker line right now as a whole group of trucks all down that back straightaway, hanging on to that 3/4 high line right now. Rankin really one of the only trucks down there is, now as I say that, you've got Paul Witt diving in below him as they're coming out of 4 and down the front straight for one more time to complete the 6th lap right now.
Battles further down the pack, looking back to Trevor Trago and Julian Ballou going side by side. That's for 6th down in the turn 1 as well. So drivers even through the midfield starting to pick up their fights as the battles for the lead shake out. And Trago clears Ballou that time by out of turn 2, working the back stretch as Montagune's 37 pulling clear into 3 and 4. You mentioned hugging that line. That's the way to run the inside line, right? Is to try to just run that little lift down at the transition, but you gotta be careful not to take too much or you'll find this truck spinning around in a hurry. These trucks don't seem to be very well planted so far in the early runs of this race. A bit unusual considering how notoriously loose Homestead-Miami Speedway can be on the opening salvo.
Yeah, as we're in the pre-production meeting, we were watching some of the practice and just watching these guys get a little crazy coming around there. So, I mean, maybe they were pushing a little too hard at the start just to try to find those limits that these trucks are capable of doing. But everybody seems to be doing pretty good. About a lap ago, I saw, I think it was Caleb McNeil, get a little squirrely coming in the middle of turns 1 and 2. But, ooh, got a little bumping and rubbing going on right here. It looks like McNeil and... who is that? 51. That is Ballou right ahead of him. Almost 3 wide coming out of 1 and 2. Everybody's really freight trained in a single file down the straightaways, but then they widen it up coming into the turns there. So looks like 89 car of McNeil trying to make that inside line move on Ballou as they're coming around 3 and 4 right now. Heading down the front straightaway one more time.
Yo, is Ballou getting way loose back in turn 4. Then got the air taken off at the side, and that will cause Ballou to fall back right into the clutches of Mike Allen, who nearly runs over the back of him entering turn number 1. Even further down the pack, you take a look. This is now 6 seconds behind the leaders. Ryan McRoberts, Brad Slagle, Casey Ellis, and more all packed up line astern as we thunder it down the backstretch into 3 and 4. So no matter where you look, you're always going to have battles when you have a pack of this size. And right now, the most aggressive battling seems to be for some of the last spots on the running order.
Yeah, those are always the guys that are always scrapping and battling it out right now. As we're focused on the 35 truck of Ellis, Casey Ellis right now. That bright fluorescent yellow and pink truck. Not hard to miss that truck on the track. Running that about 3/4 line right now on the back straightaway, trying to make a move on Slagle right now. Brad really hanging on to that 14th spot, Casey in 15th. And on the inside of Casey right now is Ryan McRoberts making a move around 3 and 4, driving on that inside line, able to stick it through that area. Does that old slide job up as you see the 35 truck tail just wagging coming out of turn 4 as they come down for one more lap.
Working lap number 11, already 10 down after what's been a rapid-fire race so far from the IEL Championship night 195. Pit stops, we're expecting those to be coming in about 20 laps or so, usually about 30 to 40 laps or so. That's what these guys get on the fuel as they are fierce fuel tank limitations. This, of course, going off of the data we have from earlier in the season and pretty much all of our other mile-and-a-half races that have seen about 3-4 pit stops per race. Kind of depends on the track. Miami, you might be able to stretch it out a bit further than most just because you're lifted off the throttle a lot more. You're not spending so much time fully in the gas like you are at some other tracks, like Atlanta, like Texas, for example. That doesn't mean, though, that this fuel is going to last you down to the half of the race. We're still expecting them to be a pit, and I'd say around laps 35 to 40.
Yeah, definitely going to be around that time. I mean, even with lifting and getting some draft of these trucks, you're not going to save that much fuel. So definitely looking for another 20 to 25 laps. We'll start seeing some guys, early stoppers, trying to make it in and see if they can get off cycle with a few other guys. As you see the 429 truck, Paul Witt right in that high side, trying to make it work up there. Sitting in the 5th spot right now. Is in that lead pack of trucks. So you've got about 6 trucks running nose to stern, coming around 3 and 4 right now. And then you got about another 2.5 seconds back to that 7th spot of Bobby Blowers in the 34. So the top 6 trucks is really starting to pull away just a bit. Then you got another pack of 6 trucks back there. Bobby's trying to really pull away from that back 6 and reel in these top guys. But if they start running side by side like this more, that pack and the second pack's really going to start closing in here quick.
Flowers at the moment running in a bit of no man's land. He doesn't really have the draft of the guys behind, but he definitely doesn't have the draft of the guys in front. So he's a bit stuck right now. That number 34 Tundra. That's not always a bad thing, right? A track like Homestead-Miami Speedway can be very volatile if you're in a big pack of cars. So it can be beneficial sometimes to be running by alone some, but I don't think you want to be by yourself. Only 15 laps in a 130 lap race, but I guess considering where he's at, it's not a bad spot to be caught in no man's land. It's not like he's one of the last trucks on the grid, proving that he is far the pace of the leaders. He's got enough pace to be a midfield truck right now.
No, absolutely. He's not really losing pace with the leaders, as you know, the leaders are turning 38 flats, and Bobby's in the 34 too. So he's not terrible. If with these guys that are running, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or whatever, start running side by side, he's going to actually give a little bit, be able to close that gap a bit. But if these guys stick to their nose to tail, like they have been down the straightaways, they should start pulling away just a bit. But out in front, you still got Aaron Raymond in the 6 truck pulling away, about a 1/4 second advantage to Brendan Gregg in that 2nd spot in the 27 truck. But you got right now is the 4th and 5th spot right now of Christopher Howell and Trevor Trago battling it out. And then Paul Witt not too far back in that 429. So, I mean, like we said, that top 6 trucks, they're separated by less than 2 seconds right now. Then you got a 1.5 seconds gap back to Bobby Blowers, and then just over a second back to Thomas Lane in the 8th spot. So everybody getting settled in right now. No real super crazy chaos going on. It's a good settle in right now, but pit stops are going to be coming up soon, and that's one of the tricky things with this track is the pit stops. Is there's really no pit entry lane. You really got to come in hard off of turn 4 and dive into that pit lane. And as we saw last week, a couple guys got a little hairy coming into pit lane, so that could really play into effect here as well.
Brendan Gregg trying to look for the inside, but he's not going to be able to, I think, well, actually maybe it will, as Raymond way up the track in turn 2. So Gregg will take over the race lead for lap number 18. There is a small pit entry lane, but it's not really an ideal one. You look right about there. See that yellow line? That is a pseudo pit entry lane. That was back when a certain open wheel series used to run here at this facility, because it was far too dangerous for them to be pitting off of turn 4. But seldom do stock car and stock truck drivers ever use that pit entry lane, because you just lose too much time trying to get down there. So they just like to pit off of 4. That's why oftentimes, if you're in these types of races, you'll hear drivers calling you out, especially if they're in a big group of cars. That lets the guys behind them know, hey, I want to stop this time by. Please don't run me over.
Yeah, no, and I've seen in the chat, I've seen quite a few guys have that programmed in even during practice. So that's a good spot for these guys to call it out, so they know that you're going to start lifting coming out of 4 to dive in. But good side-by-side action out in front right now with Aaron and Brennan battling out, and right behind him is Scott Rankin just lurking back there in that 3rd spot. The high line is definitely a good run down that back straightaway, but that inside line does get you ahead in the turn. So it's a real, catch-22. One of the things about running that inside line, though, is it does heat up your tires a little bit more, because you're turning in a little bit sharper. So we'll have to see what the tire wear is like on this race, and see what these guys look like after they start coming in for pits in about another 15 laps or so.
See all the wheel work that Raymond was doing in that number 6 truck there off of turn number 4. He lost a good chunk of time doing all of that, and that has now sent Scott Rankin through into the number 2 spot. And in fact, if I can, I want to look back on Raymond's attempt here. This will be down the backstretch into 3 and 4. We're riding on board with the number 6 Silverado. Watch all the power sliding he has to do here off of turn number 4 to keep this truck from swinging around on it.
Yeah, this track is definitely, these trucks get super light like there. Wow, look at that. So much correction, and he's still able to hang on to it. But all those corrections like that, it just heats up those tires even more. And you really got to give it another lap or two for it to really settle down and be able to start pushing those tires again. As you got Rankin driving down on the inside of turns 1 and 2, trying to pull that slide job up on Brennan Gregg as they come down the back straightaway, still holding that inside line. Gregg on the outside with that long run off the turn, able to still keep pace with them as they come into 3 and 4. Rankin on that inside, that little faster line around the turn, but Brendan Gregg might get that good run down that straightaway to come across the line and lead lap number 24.
Scott Rankin, the driver that started on the pole, trying to take it back as he'll send it to the inside of Gregg, and now the 49 tracking up. The pole clear for a moment. I'm not sure that was enough to secure, though. It was not, as Brendan Gregg powers through, and he'll retake the lead with that driver on the outside down the backstretch. This time fully clears down to the 3 and 4. See Rankin immediately switch to the outside. He's trying to get a run going, trying to go for that over-under. Now that Brendan Gregg is trying to cover off the middle line. So Scott Rankin will have to work hard to try to set him a pass, but I think for the moment, Brendan Gregg is pretty secure as it stands with that race lead.
Yeah, these top 5 trucks are really running good right now. And your 6th place truck, the 429 of Paul Witt, has dropped back just a bit, about a 1.5 seconds behind this pack, as you see back there. And Blauer's closing in. So the two of those guys could team up and get nose to tail and draft up and maybe get close back up to this top group. That's what Blauer's really needed, was somebody to come back and be his friend in the draft. As you see Rankin go down on that inside, coming out of turns 3 and 4 and take back that lead. Brendan Gregg dropping back into that 2nd spot. Then you got about a 3/4 of a second gap back to Christopher Howell and Aaron Raymond just sitting back there in that 4th spot. So these guys are running really good, but that with Paul Witt dropping back to Bobby Blowers, that was big help for him, and we'll have to see if they can work their way back up to that front group.
You saw Rankin and made a very bold move, took it to the bottom at 3 and 4, and he really slid up across the nose of Brendan Gregg. He's going to try to do so again here. This will be the cut off the run of the 27, looking like he pulled him a bit further ahead than he anticipated. So Gregg was able to get a run, but not enough to attack down into the opening corner. But that's not going to stop Scott Rankin, though, from taking that middle groove. He likes to run the middle and control the race where he's at. Casey Ellis and Greg Pillar become the first 2 trucks to hit pit road early at lap 26. So that's an early stop for the 2 of them, and we'll see if the rest of the field will end up following suit.
Yeah, that's going to create that. Oh, yeah, here comes some more to cover up on that. Your leader jumping into pit lane as you see that tail wagging just a bit under braking, so they're able to get it under speed, and you want to make sure you get that speed limit down because you don't want to make any unnecessary pit stops at this track.
About half the field is in the pit road. Rankin, Raymond, Witt, Pawalda, Jordan, Ballou, Bear all into pit road, and we'll see if Brendan Gregg and co will follow suit as well just after, as the 27 car, he will be sliding into pit road this time by, and he's going to take the rest of the field with them. Whoa, look out, as hard on the brakes and slides into the pit stalls, loses a couple of spots. That could very well cost him the net race lead.
Yeah, definitely. That got a little hairy coming in the pit lane and having them side by side now. Hopefully he doesn't get a penalty for missing that cone. Oh, they get tangled up in pit lane.
Wow, that's unfortunate, to put it mildly. Well, if he didn't have the net race lead lost before, he definitely does now. Doesn't look like there's too much damage on that truck. He might be able to survive that and get going, but that's a pretty wild entry overall, and we'll get a look at what the pit stop cycles through and see what happened.
Yeah, tough break for Brennan. It's just, I mean, it all the way in from pit, it was just a rough pit in and then getting tangled up with another truck. As you watch him coming off of turn 4 here, we talked about how hard it was to get in there, and he's already chasing the tail, gets under the binders really hard, able to correct it, able to get it straight. Hopefully he doesn't get a penalty for missing that cone, but then he's side by side with the 37 truck. Is that who that is right next to him?
Yeah, Trevor Trago.
Then somebody jumping out of pits right here, and then Trago just thought he was going to be clear. I mean, one of the things with iRacing is in so many other races, you're clear in pit lane. So maybe he thought that he was clear and not going to hit him. I don't know.
So this is going to be a very controversial opinion, but I'm actually going to put some fault on that to Brennan Gray, because it is in the rule book that unless you're turning in for your pit stall, you need to remain in the right-hand lane as much as possible. Now, he was out of control on pit entry. There's absolutely no disputing that. What he should have done, he should have lifted off a little and get in line. He knows that Trevor Traeger's pit stall is before his. I don't know what he thought was going to happen there. I mean, the best thing to do would have been to get in line, and then no problem. You don't collide with each other. But that's what happens when you get stubborn in the pit road with everybody else.
No, absolutely. Yellow. Yep, caution is out.
Caleb McNeil has spun on the front stretch. Whoa, and he's not the only one. Ryan McRoberts collecting Tristan Baer at turn 1. So there's been a couple of incidents here.
Not sure what all happened here, but we'll have to catch that on the replay here. As looks like everybody may have been running side by side. Here they come down the front straightaway right here. Let's see what gets. Oh, the 89 gets turned sideways, gets that right fendered into that wall. Whoa, wow, they got close in there.
So Casey Ellis ran over Ryan McRoberts trying to avoid a spinning 89 car. We'll get a better look at this one here. Mike Allen just tracks down, wasn't aware of where his truck was positioned. And then here comes Ellis, slides down, just runs over McRoberts, and then Tristan Baer just had nowhere to go. Overall, though, not a hard crash, so he may very well be able to get back up and in good order before too long. This will allow everybody else, though, that didn't already pit to come on down and get a fresh set of tires and get some fuel.
Yeah, it's going to get a couple laps here to get settled in, but the first pit stops, it looked like Rankin and Raymond did not take tires. When I was watching them in their pit lane, it did not look like they took tires on that first stop. So we'll have to see how they pace out for the rest after these guys do get some fresh rubber on the trucks. And once we get back going on to green to see what the pace looks like at that time.
Well, we are under caution for the first time here tonight, just under 100 laps remaining. We're going to take a jump back. We'll be back with more from the Homestead-Miami Speedway in just a moment.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Green Flag TV and to the TNGG IEL Championship Night 195 at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Coming to the close of our first caution flag, Scott Rankin, Raymond, Blowers, Trago, Slagle, and Ballou will be lined up for the first 3 rows as we'll be restarting for lap 35 of 130.
Yeah, after that yellow flag, everybody getting bunched back up. They were getting spread out just a bit. Your top 5 were starting to pull away a bit, but the big winner in this yellow flag was Bobby Blowers. Sitting on the outside of that second row right now. He was in that no man's land in 6th spot for a while. So we'll have to see how they get going as we come down the front straightaway into the restart zone and back to green racing as they come down. We'll have to see how these cold tires handle out as they come through into turn 1.
Raymond trying to power around the top, a bit of a bobble though. Bobby Blowers, trying to attack now from the top shelf as well. Raymond sliding up, and oh boy, nearly hooked himself across the nose of the number 34 Toyota Tundra as we thunder down the backstretch into 3 and 4. Scott Rankin holds the lead for now, but Bobby Blowers looking to make a big charge to the front as both Raymond and Rankin didn't take tires when they came down a pit road.
That is definitely the difference you see right now as you see Blowers taking those fresh rubbers, and he is able to go from 4th to 1st in 1 lap. Takes over the lead right now and is pulling away already. About a 0.3 of a second advantage just as he made that pass through the front straightaway. Blowers out in front, Rankin in 2nd. Slagle now up into the 3rd spot in that 052 truck. So these fresh rubber tires, we were talking just during that yellow flag that the top 2 trucks early on, Rankin and Raymond, did not take tires on their first stop. And here comes all those fresh tired trucks that are going to start backing up behind them as you see these guys going side by side down the front straightaway into turn 1 for 1 more lap.
McNeil, Holiday, Bayer, Gregg all under a blanket and now going 3 wide with Thomas Lane Jr. through turns 1 and 2 as we work the back straightaway. It is a hornet's nest as we work around this 1.5-mile speedway. And up the road, Trevor Trago continuing to battle that with Aaron Raymond, and now Raymond trying to power around the top side as well. Looking, though, like we may have survived the opening melee that these restarts can sometimes bring about, especially when you have so many different tire strategies. Now we're going to try to get ourselves settled back into a rhythm. And we'll see if it'll be disrupted by another yellow flag around the next pit stop stint.
Yeah, these guys are starting to get a little frisky right now, running 3 wide around those turns, able to tuck back up into those side-by-side action as we're back there in that 10th, 11th, 12th spot right now. Watching Dale Rapp in the number 52 running in that 12th spot, sucked in right behind Julian Ballou. Howell looks like Raymond getting a little high on that outside, and here comes that Gregg truck. Brendan Gregg trying to work his way back up after that little mishap in pit lane, working his way back up into the 6th spot. Aaron Raymond dropping down to the 8th. I mean, you think that not taking tires early on like that would have been an advantage for him because it would have been a quicker stop possibly and just get out and keep going. But man, that yellow flag came out at the worst time for Raymond and Rankin, but Scott Rankin's still able to hang on to that 3rd spot. As man, those guys are side by side coming out of turn 4.
Trevor Trago being split top to bottom by Brennan Gregg and Caleb McNeil. Bobby Blowers side by side with Brad Slagle for the race lead as we worked it out of turn number 2 to the backstretch in the 34, going to try to pull clear from the 052. But Brad Slagle's on a charge, and he's not about to be denied. Back to the bottom of 3 and 4 goes the Tech for Troops Tundra as Blowers slides it up in 3 and 4, gives Slagle some more advantage. But again, the drive you can get around the top is so powerful. It's almost incomparable to what you can get down from the inside. You got to rely on the entry lane to clear yourself off, but it's very hard to do when you're being pinched down to the apron like that.
Yeah, no, that top side is definitely the faster way to go because you're able to carry that momentum and then just drag race down that straightaway and get that good run. But Blowers making a great run on that inside, but Slagle really doing excuse me, the other way around. Slagle really doing that good job of staying up high like that, but he's getting pinched down real tight, so he's trying to get back up on top. As they go into turns 1 and 2, Slagle taking back over that top spot. Blowers now taking over that inside line, getting a good run off of 3 and 4 and getting a drag race, and he's just barely poking ahead of him as they come down the back straightaway, as they swap positions back and forth. They've opened up to a 2-second advantage now on Brendan Gregg. Gregg able to work his way back up into that 3rd spot after that early pit lane mishap. But these top 2 trucks have really pulled away. Oh, good side by side.
And into the wall goes Bobby Blowers, put into it by Brad Slagle, and that brings an abrupt end to the battle for the lead. Blowers has right front damage now and could fall victim to one of Slagle's teammates, Brendan Gregg, around the top. That's not how we wanted to see a battle for the lead come to a close, but boy, they were fighting it out big time, and I wonder if Bobby Blowers will be having to come to pit road because of that.
Yeah, it looks like he's diving down in the inside right now and possibly going to bring it in, but that was a tough break. They had a good battle going, but as you see them going back and forth, they really got a little hairy as he brings it in. And Bobby Blowers bringing it in to get some repairs done. So that's going to give Slagle the lead, but that gives Brendan Gregg a chance to close that gap. So top 2 trucks are separated by about 1.5 seconds, but you got a great battle going on here, rounding out your top 10 spots. Trago in the 37 truck, Allen back there with them, Raymond dropping all the way down into the 11th spot. So those old tires have really dropped him back, with 3 wide going into 3 and 4 right now. Aaron Raymond on that inside, sliding up into that middle row. Oh, gets a little sideways. Whoa, he's able to hang on to that.
No chill right now in the TNGG IEL Truck Series grid. That was one heck of a save from Raymond. That's got to be one of the best saves we've had so far all year long. Let's take another look at that one here, as this was working into 3 and 4. Hang on.
Little dirt track midget action coming off of turns 3 and 4. Man, he did that at the last race at the Worldwide Speedway, coming out of 3 and 4 in that last lap, and he controlled it all the way around. So good wheel handling from Raymond there to hang on to it. But he's dropped all the way down to the 12th spot after starting that yellow flag in 2nd. So he's dropped all the way down with just not changing the tires on the trucks. But we're on board with the 429 truck right there, sitting in that 4th spot of Paul Witt. Down the back straightaway, we're on with Caleb McNeil now in the 89 truck in the 5th spot. As you can see, the banking just a little bit. This is that lower part of banking, about 18% down on that lower part. But as it goes up, it gets up to about 20% banking. So that's why that high line is so much of an advantage down those straightaways, because you can get way up high up there, run a little harder up there, and really drag race down the straightaway to try to make that pass down the straightaway. So we could see if racing comes down to the white flag, we might see somebody really run that high line and try to drag race somebody to come across the line.
Well, I think finally we can start to calm things down just a little bit more, and this race will now start to tame itself now that the rest of the field is broken apart for the most part. You mentioned Raymond's slide, the Worldwide Technology Raceway. The difference in the two, this time he was trying to race. Last week he was just celebrating the new championship. So one of them very much not intentional, but still just as well held as well. Raymond's been good at that. He's had a lot of experience having that truck get sideways over the races, so he by now knows exactly how this truck works to wrangle it back underneath him. And I think he was lucky he was on the higher banks of the racetrack when that happened, because I can guarantee you, if he was on the low side when that happened, he wouldn't have recovered that nearly as well as he did.
No, I have to agree, absolutely. Yeah, the one at Worldwide Tech, he was definitely celebrating, and he was just dragging it around, but that kind of gave him a little bit of learning lesson for this week. But he did chase it up the hill and was able to collect it and be able to hang on to it as we drop back into that 15th, 16th spot right now. In the 16th spot, you got the truck number 9 of John Halliday. With the 74 of Robert Jordan right there, and also the 35 of Casey Ellis, all going at it down the back straightaway. Ellis on that inside line right now, trying to go on the inside of Holiday as they come into 3 and 4. Ellis able to take over that spot, up into the 16th spot. Oh, and the number 9 comes back into that back bumper of him. Luckily, Ellis was able to hang on to that, because that was a pretty hard shot coming into a turn 3 like that.
Good old bump and run. Didn't work this time around for John Holiday. But you'd think the race would be a little bit tamer considering all the points are, for the most part, set in stone. Doesn't seem like that's a mentality that's looking to settle in, though, for a lot of the drivers, as they're still looking to go for whatever spots they can get, and they are putting on a show tonight for their season finale. Brad Slagle has been steadily caught by Brandon Gregg over the last several laps as well. You can see he's reeled that down from about half a second to a quarter of a second. So Brandon Gregg could very well be a threat for the race lead here. And at this point, again, with both of them locked in position for the points, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't just go to war with each other.
Yeah, I'm sure they're in each other's Discord and just, talking it up right now. And if this was towards a lot closer, I mean, we're not even halfway yet. So if we got to the last 10 laps, I think all gloves were going to be off and these guys are going to go at it. But early on we're still, like I said, not even the halfway point right now. These guys are just going to get settled in and keep going. But just as I say that, Brendan Gregg's going to look on the inside down the back straightaway and make an inside move on Brad as they come into 3 and 4. As he backs up right now, as we got a yellow flag out on the track. 35 truck around again. Casey Ellis spinning out on the front straightaway.
And that fluorescent yellow machine is up in smoke as well. So Ellis will have to use his one quick repair if he still has it to get that truck back into contention. There's Brad Slagle, who you see slowing down. And Slagle, I think, looking to make sure that he doesn't put Casey Ellis a lap down, making sure that Ellis can stay on the lead lap and continue to fight for positions as we got a look at what happened to the number 35 truck. Oh, there it is, bump and run number 2, and that turned into a smash and sprint, and Holiday, I think, lifted out to try to give the spot back. Didn't quite realize that Ellis was firing across the racetrack.
Yeah, that was a hard hit from him. So look at just these trucks are so light coming out of the turns. Wow, that was close coming across there. And Casey just hitting that outside wall so hard. So hopefully he still has a fast repair in his pocket as they come around, hit that outside wall, and then just start diving back onto that inside area now. It's a tough break for Casey. I mean, he had a good run going, but 2 little meetings with the number 9 truck. So might have a little talk to after the race possibly.
Whole field is down and then to pit road for service. That tracks for me. We're getting close to when we'd be coming down anyway for that second pit stop stint, so may as well come down now. Let's take a look and see who's going to opt to go for fuel only on these stops. McNeil fuel only, Lane fuel only, Witt fuel only. At this one, we'll just try to see who's on tires. Christopher Howell, Brendan Gregg both took tires. Brad Slagle, so all of Average Joe Motorsports is taking tires. Dale Rapp, Trevor Trago. And looking like Julian Ballou, Scott Rankin, Aaron Raymond as well. So about, again, a split call. About 6 trucks ended up only taking fuel only in their pit stops this time by.
And Raymond and Rankin are very glad that yellow flag came out, as they were both just plummeting down the standings. So we'll have to see when everybody's equal on them fresh tires to watch those guys drive their way back up. As we're kind of spotlighting right now the 38 truck of Thomas Lane. Looks like he's going to grid up in that second spot possibly as we get things all sorted out. As we're just cruising around on yellow flag number 2 right now. Everybody's going to start gridding up back up and going here racing soon.
We talked about how great of a series this has been throughout the course of the year and how great of a show these guys have been putting on throughout the duration of this final race as well. And Thomas Lane Jr., of course, the TNGG president over here. So we'll see if we can get some words from the owner about how this season has gone so far from a league owner standpoint. Thomas, this is Noel Rample up here on the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's the final race of the season. Let's start with your performance so far. Obviously, you're up 5. You chose not to. You did choose to pit, but you took fuel only. How's that going to be looking then for your restart here?
I think we're going to be okay. My plans is to have 2 sets of tires left for these. We're going to have a couple more pit stops we're going to have to finish the race up with. So I'm hoping to have 2 more sets. And I think a couple of guys didn't take tires earlier. So hopefully that's going to put us where we need to be.
we look forward as a whole. Obviously, we were talking about the championship and how great of a year it's been in terms of competition for you guys. We look forward to the future, though. Obviously, you've got the more of an inside scoop than anybody, being the owner and founder of this league. What can we expect to see over the next several months to the winter months until we get to Season 5?
We got the Super Speedway Blitz coming up, and so that starts November the 11th. And I'm gonna have up some recruitment races, practice races in the middle of the week to get a few guys in that. And so it should be pretty good before the season starts in February 24th. And I'm gonna throw this out there. Maybe we'll get some road course stuff in after the Season 5.
Well, we'll see what will come to the future then in terms of the road course racing action and, of course, through that Super Speedway Blitz throughout the winter. Thanks for joining us up here, Thomas, and giving us those insights. We'll let you get back to work.
Yes, sir.
That was Thomas Lane Jr. joining us up here in the broadcast. We will be restarting second. And, well, you heard it there first. Look out for those recruitment races if you want to get in on all the action here in the TNGG IEL Esports League. The Super Speedway Blitz, as I understand, will be open to the public as well. And we will be returning to cover the entirety of that 8-week championship when they start kick that off. I believe that will start in first week of December, if I'm correct on that one. But Pacer will pull off this time, and we'll go back to green flag racing.
Yeah, let's see how these guys work out after that second pit stop as we're coming down the front straightaway, coming into that Geico restart section right now. And you've got a good restart, and we're green flag back on for our third green flag. You've got Paul Witt out in front of the 429 pulling away. He's pulling Caleb McNeil in that second spot on that low line right now. As you got the 27 truck of Brendan Gregg already working his way up into the third spot, making it 3 wide out of turn 2. Able to come up into that third spot and pull into turn 3 right now as he's looking for another line to come around, trying to make that 3 wide again as he's sticking his nose in between that 89 and 429 as they're coming out of turn 4 down the front straightaway for the first time by. You see all these guys side by side drag racing down the front straightaway going into turn 1.
Huge drive around as we were almost 4 wide throughout the mid-pack on the restart. Paul Witt tracking from bottom up to top across the nose of Brendan Gregg. Gregg going to cut back to the bottom and try to attack that 429. Back into turn numbers 3 and 4. Christopher Howell tucks in line as well, and Gregg is back through and into the point. A wild restart here so far, and again, we're seeing the difference of everybody that didn't take tires versus everybody that did. We're 3 wide again for about 5th spot down the front straightaway.
Lurking in that 6th spot right now is the 49 truck of Scott Rankin. Running right with him is that 6 truck of Aaron Raymond. So those two guys running side by side, cutting through the field right now on those fresh tires, trying to make their way back up as they come almost 4 wide coming into turns 3. You've got Rankin on that inside right now, Raymond in the middle, trying to make the moves up and around turns 3 and 4. Parked in behind Brad Slagle on that 052 as they come off of turn 4. Raymond right on that back bumper of Slagle as they come down the front straightaway. Diving down into turn 1. They've got everybody single file. Raymond diving on that inside now in turn 1. Riding that low side. Jumping up into that 3rd spot now as Brad Slagle drops back to 4th. Aaron Raymond as we're riding on top of that Goodwrench truck number 6 down the back straightaway, trying to close in on Christopher Howell. He's about a 1/4 of a second back, but he's got Rankin right behind him as well. The 37 truck of Trevor Trago trying to take advantage of those 2 guys cutting through the field, trying to ride that back bumper of Rankin to work his way to the top field.
Trouble in the background. Caleb McNeil side slap the outside wall out of turn 4. Will cost him about 3 positions. He'll drop to 11th now side by side with Thomas Lane Jr. John Mawalda Jr., Julian Ballou and Bobby Flowers are also side by side just up the road. This time, instead of having just about, 15 laps of complete calamity. Okay, let me actually rephrase that. Instead of having 15 laps of organized chaos, we had about 5 laps of uncontrolled chaos, and we got all of that sorted out this time around as the Lou one now poked to the bottom of Blowers to try to send one up the inside in a 1 and 2. I fully thought we were getting a very early caution there of that last green flag stance.
Yeah, no, I thought we were definitely going to be in for yellow flag number 3 coming around. Those guys were definitely getting a little spicy, but the Rankin and Raymond running side by side through that section, just dicing through those trucks, was definitely pretty hairy right now, as we're back on board with Aaron Raymond closing in on Christopher Howell as they're coming into 1 and 2 right now. That Raymond, definitely those fresh tires, bringing them back up the pace, bringing them back into that top 3 trucks right now, as we're back in the back of the pack right now. Guys are running side by side, nose to tail, out of 3 and 4 right now, as they're down, down the back straightaway now. That pack of 5 trucks running together for that 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th spot. Man, these guys are really going at it, as we're closing in on that halfway point right now. 65 laps down and 130 laps total. So we're right at that halfway point coming into turn 1.
Pretty much right at halfway. The next time by, when we go from 65 to 66, you've got Bayer, Holiday, Allen, Ellis, Jordan, all packed up line astern. And again, these are for battles in the back quarter of the field. I love the fact that everybody loves to battle no matter where they are in this field, and always make sure that there's something to look at when you get to these races once everything starts to string out a bit more throughout the course of the race. And typically the way it works is when one battle dies off, another one accelerates somewhere else. It's almost considerate how much they like to have these battles almost one at a time, so we get to cover everything as Lane scrapes the wall in 2.
Yeah, no, these guys are doing a fantastic job. It's just the 2 trucks trying to take one area at one time is where they get that yellow flag out. But these guys are doing a great job, as everybody's really going nose to stern right now. No real side-by-side actions going on. Everybody is grooved in. That top pack is out front. And then you got about 4 seconds back to that 7th place truck. So out in front right now, you got Blowers actually working his way back up after that mistake earlier, getting sideways. Blowers able to get back up into that 8th spot now, and those yellow flags definitely help some of these trucks out, as he's got Witt right behind him, drag racing, getting that draft down, and Blowers blinking out just a bit. Man, that could be awfully distracting if you're in the truck that's behind him, especially as hairy as these trucks can get. You get a little panic, then you might twitch that wheel and you might chase that back end around on you. So you're watching somebody blink ahead of you is always super distracting when you're coming around the track.
Not to mention dangerous as well, because when you're bouncing all over the racetrack, sometimes iRacing puts the hitbox of your trucks in a place where it is not. And I've seen several cases of that happening, not only in this league, but in many, many, many other leagues as well, in which you'll have drivers that will blink out, they'll blink back in, and somewhere about 2-3 truck lengths away, somebody will just all of a sudden be punted sideways like they've just been hit with a battering ram, because I was thinking they've just hit the truck that blinked out when they weren't anywhere close to them.
Yeah, it's super distracting when you've got some guy, right now you don't see him flying, but when you're in the truck, sometimes you might see them flying around, and you just kind of glance up and look to see, like, what the heck's going on. But it can be super distracting. Is the 429 truck of Paul Witt dropping back a couple spots now, coming back to the field a bit. I don't know if maybe he didn't take tires that last time by, but we're back up front right now with Brendan Gregg in the 27 truck. Christopher Howell running in 2nd, Aaron Raymond in 3rd, Scott Rankin in the 4th spot, and Trevor Trago, like we mentioned earlier, just being the beneficiary of having some of those faster trucks in front of him. He is tucked in behind Scott Rankin and just hanging in that top 5 spot. I would probably do the exact same thing, just sit on that back bumper and follow that guy to the front.
Top 5 all blanketed by about 0.8 of a second right now. There's about 10.5 to a quarter of a second between each individual truck, as Aaron Raymond and Scott Rankin almost exchange hands. Rankin, you saw, tried to attack into turn 1, opted against it. He'll tuck in line between Raymond and Trevor Trago, as we are now well into the second half of this race. 60 laps to go this time by at the line, as Greg Howell remain the top 2 for Average Joe Motorsports. So it's a good drive there. I'll tell you what, Raymond's in a bit of a sandwich right now. I mean, he's got AGM in front of him. He's got Wanted Goons behind him, also running 2 at a time. And, trouble. Caution is out. Greg Pillar stopped on the front stretch.
have to see what the replay looks like on this. It's facing the wrong way on that front straightaway, and we'll have to get a replay to see what happened to him coming out of turn 4. That 90 truck of Greg Pillar coming down and gets right fendered, and that whole front clip just comes off of him. And the 89 truck collecting the wall as well. So we'll have to see if he's able to get that repaired. The 52 truck just kind of giving him got loose and it just got up into him. Tough break right there. They were running pretty good. Had a good battle going there for a while.
And this will be on board with Dale Rapp, the driver that hooked Greg Pillar into the wall. That's just wrong place, wrong time. But the number 60, Paul Witt, runs right over the fender. And you mentioned Caleb McNeil, I think that was, running into the wall as well. He was right behind this incident, sees it happening up the road. Oh, that's a bad place, trying to lock it down. Oh, did he get some help from behind, actually, I think?
That's tough to see, almost like he panicked and got loose. Because I didn't see anybody around him.
A bit violently, though, if that could just be loose. I think he got some help.
Yeah, he got a little help from his friend right there in the 9 truck. John Holiday giving him a little love tap in that back end and helping him chase it around.
Oh, it's a hard shot to the outside wall as well. That's the second truck we've seen really get into that outside wall in a big way. As we'll look on board with Holiday, and this will be the biggest teller. He was slowing up too. I think that's just a case of not really anybody knowing what's going on in front of you, and you're only focused on the one truck that's just up the road.
Yeah, tough break there. The good battle going on. As you still see, Blauer still blinking quite a bit.
Might not be an issue that gets fixed anytime soon. Typically, that's something to do with either ISP or just hardware as a whole. So it's very rarely software related. So I'm willing to bet bandwidth is being used elsewhere in the household for the Blauers crew. So we'll see if we're able to rectify that throughout the course of this race. Top 5 taking fuel only on this latest set of pit stops. 6th, 7th, and 8th, Raymond, Blauers, and Blue all taking tires. Robert Jordan took fuel only, and then his tires from there. Cautions out for the 3rd time in the second half of this race. We'll take a jump back. You're watching the TNGG IEL Truck Series on Green Flag TV. Pace truck, lights out from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Brandon Gregg and Christopher Howell will remain side by side as they'll take us to the green flag. Brad Slago's drop back. Raymond nowhere to be found. Wanted Goons will lock out the second row. But remember, they are all on fuel only. Raymond, the first driver on tires, starting third on the top. It'll be 55 laps to go. We'll enter the Geico restart zone. And leave it in the hands of Barney the Flyman. Green flag is back and we're underway.
Good bunch up for these guys coming down the front straight one more time as you've got Rankin looking on that inside, trying to go from third to first, just coming into turn one. Rankin on that inside line and hugging that inside pipe and taking over the lead as you see Blauer still back there blinking and causing Raymond some issues. Good battle right now as these guys are coming down the back straightaway and running into turns three.
Aaron Raymond trying to take it 3 wide up the middle, gets on the inside of Brad Slago. Baloo doors Trago as we work through turns 3 and 4. Look out, Bobby Blowers hard into the inside wall of the front straightaway. And that will not force a caution as he's so far down it doesn't matter. So he will have to take the tow and we'll keep this race underway.
I saw in the chat that he ended up getting black flagged, so I wonder if they black flagged him for blinking out so much. Not sure what happened, but he may have just pulled himself in to get out of the way and not cause any harm to these guys with blinking as much as he was.
That was a hard shot to the inside wall, but now Brennan Gregg and Scott Rankin will be side by side for the race lead, and Aaron Raymond in the fray as well as we charge it into turn numbers 1 and 2. 3 wide again for the lead, and it's the fresh tired Raymond that is trying to fire it up the middle of the both of them, but both these drivers standing their ground. I think this will go the way of that number 6 truck, though, by the time we get off of turn 4.
They're diving into turn 3 right now. Like you said, the 6 truck of Aaron Raymond out in front now, pulling out in between. That was a crazy battle going 3 wide through that whole 1 and 2 and down the back straightaway. But Aaron Raymond taking over that lead spot in that all black truck number 6 out in front now. Brendan Gregg settling down into that 2nd spot, but Scott Rankin not too far back in that 3rd spot. Looking on that inside line. Christopher Howell lurking back there in 4th. Julian Ballou up into the 5th spot right now. Good jump up for him up into the 5th now. Caleb going on the inside now, take over that 5th spot. And Ballou dropping back to 6th as these guys are starting to settle back in, getting nose to tail. Nothing too crazy right now. We've got a couple trucks on the inside line, but everybody preferring that about mid line coming around the turns.
The laps continue to tick away, and as we get closer and closer to the end of this race, these drivers are going to be getting more and more aggressive to go for whatever spots they can muster. We've only got 50 laps this time by, not just in this race, but on the season as a whole. And every one of these guys, they want to take that one race win, being the last win on the season, because everybody knows whether you lock out the championship before the last race or not, that final race is always the most memorable one.
You always remember the last race, so that if you're able to win that last race, you got bragging rights for the rest of the off season until that next season starts. As you see, these guys are still grouped together. I mean, nobody's really breaking away yet. That 151 truck of Ballou holding that inside line, trying to make it work, trying to stick on that inside. He's tucked in behind Caleb in the 89 truck. As they're coming down the front straight one more time. Everybody really, like you call it, nose to stern right now. Really settling in, but Rankin looking on that inside. He just keeps poking that nose out, just reminding the 27 truck of Brendan Gregg that he's right there. He says, I'm still lurking here. Don't miss on me. But Aaron Raymond already opened up to a half-second advantage. Those fresh tires he got in that last stop really working out. But you see him working that high line right now. I wondered if he's really preferring that line with those tires, really keeping them fresh, trying to get that drive down that back straightaway, trying to get that top brake rubbered in a little bit, and maybe work that line a little bit later. So maybe as you get closer to the end of the race, that might be, like we talked earlier, that might be that passing move to try to get by on that white flag lap.
Critically as well for Aaron Raymond, Caleb McNeil was the next driver that had taken tires. He's just cleared Brendan Gregg for 2nd. So McNeil now has nothing standing between himself and Aaron Raymond, and that 89 truck, now clear to run down Raymond as much as he wants in this final race. And you can see him already trying to take little by little, chunk after chunk out of that gap. It's already down by about 1/10 of a second from the last lap by when they entered turn number 1. McNeil's closing fast.
Yeah, this is going to get pretty spicy here in the next few laps, as Caleb McNeil with a 33.4 for his fast lap, but a 33.8 last time by. Aaron Raymond with a 34 flat, so those, he's about 0.2 of a second faster on that last lap. As you see Aaron Raymond dropping down to that inside line, trying to get a little bit more gap as they come by the stripe one more time to complete the 85th lap. So we're getting over that top side of that half right now, as we should be coming up on another set of pit stops here in another 15-20 laps or so. To see what these guys can do. Aaron Raymond still leading the way down the back straightaway. Caleb McNeil, both of them with a 33.8 last time by. Top two trucks separated by 0.3 of a second as we drop back in the field just a bit, looking at the truck number 5 of Buwalda as he's battling it out with Brad Casey for that 10th, 11th, and 12th spot. Casey able to get a fast repair from that hard impact he had a couple cautions ago. Runner on the outside coming into turn 1 to take over that spot from Slagle.
It's a lot more colorful in the second pack here than it is the first pack. When you look up at the front here, and it seems a lot more uniform, right? A lot of white or black and blue trucks that seem to be running one with one another up here. So it's you see where all the teams are running with each other and scrapping with each other, then everybody else then runs more independently towards the back portion of this field as well. Trago to the inside of Greg, and now Howell will try to slip through as well, but I don't know about Christopher Howell if he's going to be able to make that happen on the inside of Brendan Gregg. He's going to go for it, though, as Gregg will maintain his run at the top. He now finds himself side by side with Tristan Bayer, a driver that's also found himself in a bit of trouble over the course of this race.
Yeah, it's been an off and on race for a couple of these guys, as keeps blinking as well. So Bayer having some problems with the old internet connection as well. Hopefully he's able to get it settled out. Ooh, gets a little sideways coming through there. Able to really hang on to it. It looked like he started chasing that back end around just a bit. But good battle right now. Good pack of about 6 trucks running together, diving down into turn 1. And as you see the colorful colors of the trucks in the back half of the field coming around right now. We've got the 38 truck right now of Lane running in the 13th spot. Thomas Lane Jr. in the 38. There's only a couple Fords out here right now, and that's Thomas and Scott running them Fords. Everybody else running the Chevys and Toyotas. Good battle right now as these guys are coming around. Thomas with a 34.7 last time by. Brad Slagle with a 34.9 as they come by the stripe one more time. Thomas with a 34.5 and Brad with a 34.7. So Thomas able to pull away just a tiny little bit on that last lap, as you see the guys running all different lines right now, trying to get settled in, trying to find that fast line around as they're coming down the back straight to complete lap 90 coming across the line next time by.
John Holiday trying to make some more moves as well, as he'll shoot to the inside of Slagle, pick up the number 14 position. And Dale Rapp trying to siphon through as well as Rapp will take it to the bottom. And meanwhile, Trago, Howell, Bayer, Witt, and Moore still packed up and tucked underneath one another. The top 3 are breaking away by a huge run, and then Reagan and Trago slowing down the whole rest of the field.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a surprise. I mean, maybe, here comes Trago down on the inside, making a dive bomb move on Scott Rankin to take over that 4 spot. Does that old slide job move to come back up in front to keep that run coming from Scott. And they come down the front straight one more time. They've got Christopher Howell right behind him now. Oh, side by side now, coming down into turn 1. Howell diving on that inside line. Right behind them is Tristan Bayer in the 50 truck, as we're on board with Christopher Howell in that number 1 truck. As you see Scott Rankin around that outside as they go back to nose to stern coming into turn 3. Howell looks on that inside, trying to come around that inside line. And Tristan Bayer tucked in behind in that number 50 Hooters truck. Looks on that inside, trying to get the drive off of turn 4. Don't think that's going to quite pay off. You really got to be on that high line to get that run off the turns to try to drag race somebody down the straightaway. But Tristan still working on that inside, way tight on that inside line of Christopher Howell, trying to make it work as they go 3 wide coming out of turn 2.
Howell a lot more concerned, it would seem, about keeping Tristan Bear than the likes of Scott Rankin behind him. Although admittedly, it's much easier to pinch the truck in the bottom down than pinch the truck in the top lane up. So Howell will maintain his run as safe. Rankin breaks clear for fifth. Oh boy, Tristan Bear sliding in and out a bit as they worked out of turn number 4. Right now, you've got 5th on back through 15th, separated by less than 2 seconds. There's not a single truck in this entire pack that's separated by more than 0.2 of a second from each other.
Wow, that is definitely that could lead to our next caution flag. So a pack of trucks running this close together is definitely something that can cause that next yellow flag. But these guys are doing a great job. 3 wide coming out of 3 and 4. Oh, as you see the 37 truck of Trego get a little sideways. Oh, and Bear gets sideways coming off of 4. So pinching down off of 4 like that is definitely, you can start chasing that tail end around, but he does able to collect it and get it back straight and not lose too much time. But that could have been a huge, big wreck right there, sliding back up in front of that big old cluster pack like that.
Is there any coincidence here that the 4 trucks leading this race have all taken fuel only while everybody else behind them is taking tires right now? I think that's part of why this is such an aggressive battle right now, is because you got all the guys on fresh tires trying to get a way around, but the guys that didn't take it are fighting so hard, there is no way to get through.
Yeah, it shows you, these top guys right here in this group are high ability. These guys are always running out front, and they're able to run these used tires up quite a bit. But as you see the 50 truck trying to go around that outside of Scott Rankin, Tristan Bear making it stick now as it comes around that high side. Brings along the 35 truck of Casey Ellis as well. So Rankin dropping down into that 9th spot now. As we still are watching Bear blinking out just a bit. Oh, getting sideways coming off of 4. He keeps chasing that tail end around coming out of 4. But it's got to be super distracting for somebody like Ellis right behind him, just watching that tail end wagon. All of a sudden the truck's gone, and then right back in front of him again.
At this point in time, if you're one of these guys deeper in the pack, what do you even do to try to get around this? Says Mike Allen, and Scott Rankin almost made door-to-door contact. I mean, you don't want to be trying to fight your way through super aggressively, but at the same time, you can't really afford this late in the game to be waiting around to make these runs. You got to try to go as soon as you get the chance. And at the moment, that's, I think, a really big question that a lot of drivers are asking themselves as John Holiday quickly makes up 2 down to turn 1 as he gets around the likes of both Thomas Lane Jr. and Scott Rankin.
Yeah, and I think, people like Rankin might be just waiting for that next yellow flag, waiting for that last set of fresh tires to come across as we're closing in on 100 laps here soon. As you see him, Bear blink back in right in front of Ellis. Literally, like it was on his front bumper. So. But as I was saying, the Rankin really dropping down into about the 13th spot now. Running on those used tires has really dropped him back, but he may be betting on that last caution flag, getting that one more set of fresh tires to make that final run to try to get back up there. But as you said earlier, you've got 4th through 15th separated by about 2.5 seconds right now. So that pack of trucks is just crazy, and it could lead to that 4th caution flag.
John Bualda Jr., Dale Rapp, John Holiday, and Paul Wade. Casey Ellis bails out. He'll take it to pit road while everyone else scrapping it out. 3-way drag race down the pit straight. Bualda looking to be backing out from the bottom. I want to get a look at the starter line 98 if I can. This is working into turn numbers 1 and 2. I have a suspicion we had a couple of trucks break sideways here as Bualda and Dale Rapp found their way around. Oh, there was Paul Witt that got a bit out of shape, and it looks like that caused a small checkup, and that's why we saw so much 3-wide action all of a sudden kick off from what's otherwise been pretty tame 2x2 action throughout the course of this field. I think even if you pit now, you still have to pit one more time for a splash and go, because these guys have been pitting every 25 to 28 laps. Pitting with 30 to go, that's going to be pushing it.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be pushing that fuel envelope and really going to make his job tough to the end. He might be betting on trying to get that last caution flag, but pitting early like that does take him off the lead lap to get him, put him a lap down. So as we're watching right now, the 37 truck of Trevor Trego in the 6th spot, sitting right behind and you see Bear get sideways again around 3 and 4. blinking in and out. That is getting super distracting to some of these guys that are right behind him. Especially with not knowing where he's going coming out of turn 4. That seems to be his magic turn to coming in dirt track and coming out of the turn 4.
No kidding. You saw John Holiday have to scramble a bit. He wasn't sure where Bear was going. Bear will take it to the bottom. I think he is getting out of the way before he gets black flagged, as he'll take it way down to the bottom of the racetrack. And oh, wow. Actually, hello. Tristan Bear side slaps the inside wall and rips the hood off. The right front is gone on that machine, and he'll take the toe to pit road. Julian Ballou and more are into the pits. Here's what happened to Tristan on the backstretch.
He may have just, he may have just pushed it in there to try to get it to stop sooner to stay out of the way.
That's frustration.
Yeah. There's a couple guys coming in for their stops right now. But as you kind of go back on board and you just see them come across, but there's truck number 6 in the lead. Raymond in for a stop, getting all those fresh boots back on. And he should be able to make it the rest of the way. So we'll have to see if we get another caution flag. That really could bunch the field back up as some more trucks diving out into the pit lane. 9 and 60 coming in the stop.
Oh!
Halliday and Allen. Woof. Oh, 60 truck getting a little sideways. Mike Allen getting tagged up on that inside wall. As we talked about earlier, it is a pretty hairy pit stop, but having somebody on your outside also can get you a little distracted under braking.
Yeah, just looped the back end when he was hard on the binders. I think locked the rears, and that's what sent him into pit road. You mentioned a potential caution could bunch the field up. I don't think that is a bunch of the field up is so much of Raymond's concern right now. I think the biggest concern for Aaron Raymond is when does that caution come out? Because if it comes out, as now Scott Rankin locks it down. He may have gotten a speeding penalty from that one as well as he was sliding into the pit road. But again, Raymond, I think for him, he's got more to worry about when the caution comes out. If it comes out within the next, 5-10 laps, so no problem. You just come down, get some more fuel, and you're going to be good to go. But if that caution comes out and you go into overtime, considering we're at just under 28 laps to go, you're not guaranteed to be able to make that overtime attempt on the fuel you have. So he may very well have to come down and sacrifice every track position just to make it around.
That is very true. Yeah, it's definitely plays a role into it, and anything can happen here, as we've seen in some of the previous events, to see how these guys close it out. As we're coming around right now with Paul Witt in the 429 truck being shown out in front right now. Right in the second spot is Thomas Lane, but Aaron Raymond now coming around. Going to be coming around the next time by to take back that second spot. So we'll have to see how this works out. As you see Paul Witt diving down into the pit lane, giving up that lead spot. So Aaron Raymond taking back that lead now in the 6 truck. Julian Ballou will now take over second. Christopher Howell will be in third as the 429 truck makes that long, slow trundle down that front straightaway pit lane to get that final fuel and tires on.
So time will continue on as Aaron Rainbow will work out of turn number 4, and he will pick up the race lead once again. And he is now pulled a good 5 seconds clear from Julian Ballou just behind. So Raymond's got a very big chance here that he'll be able to take this win in spades by the end of the night. Trevor Trago just put down the fast lap of the race, a 33.34 for the Wantagoose number 37 Silverado, as for the most part, the battles that we have seen around the top 10 are pretty much broken off. You got Robert Jordan and Thomas Lane Jr., though, still separated by about a quarter of a second. That is for 12.
Yeah, good battle still coming back there. But as you said, everybody's starting to spread out just a bit. You got 4 seconds back to the second spot, another second back to third. There's another couple seconds back all the way back, but the closest battle is still for that 12th and 13th spot. Thomas Lane Jr. and Robert Jordan nose to tail coming onto the front straightaway right now. Not too far back behind them is Dale Rapp in the 52 truck. So kind of a 3-way battle now for that 12th, 13th, and 14th spot. They're starting to close that gap quite a bit on Brad Slegel in the 052. So it could end up being a little bit of a battle. If these guys can get into a draft and get a little bit faster, they might be able to push their way up and get by Brad and maybe get into that top 10 as we're closing in on that back half of the race. We've only got 22 laps left to go. We've been going caution free here for about another 40 laps, so Nolan, do you think we're going to be able to see the rest of this in green flag, or do you think we're going to get one more yellow?
I think now that we have managed to finally make it through an actual round of green flag pit stops all the way from start to finish, which this is the first time that's actually happened, I think we'll be good to go to the end of the race from here. It'll depend on how some of these smaller battles can shake up, right? Because you still got guys like Paul Witt and Scott Rankin. They are fighting very hard still, and it's an easy track to overdrive your vehicle on. So I think if we do get any form of caution, it'll come from one of these two-car fights.
Oh, absolutely. As you see, Rankin working his way back up into that 7th spot, getting by Paul. That last time by, Scott Rankin turning the fastest lap of the race, a 33.2. Little draft aided as well, but still turning the fastest lap, trying to work his way back up onto that podium, but it's got quite of a gap back up. So he's got about 4-second gap up into that 6th spot of Brennan Gregg. And Trevor Trago now working his way up into the 4th spot, getting by Caleb McNeil last time by. So you got a couple trucks close together there for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But your leader, Aaron Raymond, really out in front, 2.5-second advantage on Christopher Howell. But you've got Ballou and Trago battling out, coming out of turn 4 and down the front straightaway, as we've got 19 laps left on the clock.
19 laps left to go, or 20 laps left to go. It'll be 19 this time by. Trago and McNeil running 4th and 5th. They are currently scrapping it out as you'll see Trago shoot to the inside of Julian Ballou to try to pick up 3rd, and that'll bump Ballou back to the number 4 spot. Pretty much everybody has taken tires under this latest round of pit stops, so everybody now on the same tire strategy, as we're not going to be seeing anybody now trying to take the advantage on any sort of tire stop here. So what you see here is pretty much what you're going to get, as Caleb McNeil will bump Ballou down to 5th, and that's just because they have 1 lap fresher tires than Julian Ballou does.
Yeah, it's a little bit quicker, a little bit able to carry that speed in there. These guys still battling out for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Scott Rankin about 4 seconds back now in that 7th and 8th spot, still battling it out with Paul Witt. These guys side by side. I mean, I bet you if these guys would just work together, get nose to tail, they might be able to close in on that 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th place battle and see if they can make a run here at the end. But they're still battling out side by side. Nobody wants to give an inch at all, as they have for the last about 10, 15 laps. Rankin's jumping back out in front, but Paul Witt around that outside, running that high line to get that speed down that straightaway. Rankin still able to hang on to that spot. This is a battle for 7th and 8th. As you see the timing and scoring going a little crazy with these guys. Oh, and Witt getting a little sideways. Oh, Rankin drives it up into the wall with them. Oh, they get side by side. Man, that was a good save from both those guys coming out of turn 4.
I got physical coming off of turn number 4 that last time by. We'll get another look at that one, as this is entering 3 and 4. And watch this here as they're going to work up out of turn 4. And I think Witt may have got a bit loose, but Rankin definitely just chased it up the track and just doored Paul Witt. But they kept it straight, and they're still side by side, 3 and 4 the next lap.
Yeah, they are not giving an inch to each other for that 7th and 8th spot. You think this was a battle for the lead on the last lap, but man, these guys are going at it, grinding at it for the battle, as we've got 15 laps to go. Like I said, they're really dropping back now. They're about 5.5 seconds behind the 6th place truck of Ballou, as Rankin takes over that 7th spot. Now Witt back on that inside, coming down around turn 3. These guys are just going at it nonstop. I mean, that is a lot of fun to race like that, though, when you've got just one other guy, you got nobody else around you. I mean, look at that. That's a huge gap back to the 9th place, and a pretty good gap back up into the 6th. So it's just, these guys are by themselves. They're just having a good old Saturday night race between each other. A couple buddies out there drinking a couple, cold ones while they're going at it.
Remember what I mentioned about how we were probably going to see a caution in one of these two-car battles? Well, we just about saw it when Rankin Dorf went there coming out of turn 4. Brennan Gregg executing the pass on Caleb McNeil. That was to have been pretty much by the book, about as textbook as you can get, as that was an easy pass for Brennan Gregg. takes over fourth, bumps McNeil down to fifth, and will now start to try to run away. Caleb McNeil chasing after, but bobbles it out, still bobbling it out in turns 1 and 2, and that opens up a very quick gap. Thomas Lane Jr. looking to be under fire as well as actually try to put Casey Ellis under fire. John Bowaldo Jr. behind is a lap down.
Yeah, it's still those colorful trucks back here in the back. Ellis, I mean, you could spot that truck anywhere on the track. Running the 11th spot, and the number 5 truck, like you said, 1 lap down. Bowaldo just getting by the 38 truck of Lane. Thomas Lane running in that 12th spot. He's about a half second behind Casey Ellis now. Maybe he can get a little draft coming around the back straightaway next time by, but that 5 truck does look a little bit faster. John Bowaldo looks like he might be able to get by these guys and pull away. Everybody pretty nose to stern right now. No super close battles going on, as you see Allen and Jordan coming off of turns 1 and 2 going at it right now. So you've got Mike Allen in the 60 truck jumping up into that 15th spot. Robert Jordan dropping back into 16th. One of the big shout outs I'd just like to call out right now is in the 9th spot, you've got the 052 truck of Brad Slagle. Brad's up 11 spots from his starting position. So big moves for him this race. He had a tough qualifying run. If he even qualified, that puts him 20th. So he started scratch to the field and has been able to work his way all up into the top 10, running 9th right now. So good running from Brad today.
By far the most spots gained out of anybody. The next closest driver is only made up 5 spots. That would be the driver that runs 3rd at the moment, Trevor Trago, who is 2.3 seconds behind the leaders. Speaking of the leaders, I think we're going to have a battle for the lead on their hands before this race is over, as Aaron Raymond and Christopher Howell. This gap has slowly but surely been working its way down. Look at the last 5 laps. In just 5 laps, 1.2 to 0.6 of a second. Trend says by the time we get to lap 26, they're going to be all over each other.
Yeah, that could be based on just saving tires, running harder. Howell may have been able to save his tires just a little bit, running that higher line to keep those tires fresh. And I alluded about it earlier. That, this could end up being hopefully we see a green flag finish and see them close back in and watch a good side-by-side battle. But I think that high line might come into play here at the end on those last couple laps as Howell really closing that gap. Both those guys with a 34.1 last time by as they come by the stripe one more time. And you've got Raymond with a 34.5, Christopher Howell with a 34.3. So he gained 0.2 of a second on that last lap alone as we're closing in on 18 laps to go. So Howell will be closing in really fast. This is going to be interesting here at the end, Nolan.
Not 18 laps to go, 8 laps to go.
Shoot. I can't math tonight, sorry.
It's been a quick race too. I mean, it's absolutely flown by as Christopher Howell continues to reel in that gap. Now we're 8 to go, and if I'm Christopher Howell, I wanted to make this move as quick as possible because remember, you may have a bit of a gap now, but that gap to Trevor Trago could come down in a hurry, especially when you got a guy like Brendan Gregg trying to work his way through this field as well. You got less than 10 to go. You can't afford to wait. Howell's right there with Raymond. He's caught him. Now he's got to pass him.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you as well. I would, if I've made that move, closed in that gap so much, I would make that move now, as he has. Going around the outside, coming around 3 and 4. Christopher Howell looking for the lead. Goes around the outside of Aaron Raymond to take the lead as they come down the front straight one more time. Howell with a 34.6 that time by. Aaron Raymond with a 34.9. Brendan Gregg about 2.5 seconds back in that 3rd spot. But you've got Christopher Howell driving it down onto the inside, starting to pull out to about a half a second gap already on Aaron Raymond as we're closing in on 5 laps to go here. Raymond tapping that outside wall. So he's starting to close in still, about a half second back, trying to hang on to that truck, trying to grab any draft he can off of Christopher Howell as they come down the front straight one more time. 170 miles an hour coming diving into turn 1 as you see how long they're off the throttle here, coasting back on the throttle about quarter of the turn, trying to reel him in. Those top 2 trucks still separated by about a half a second as down the back straightaway. They're still got about a 2.5 second gap back to that 3rd place truck of Brendan Gregg, Trevor Trago running in 4th, Caleb McNeil rounding out your top 5 right now. So good run from Caleb and Trevor in that top 5 spots.
I don't think Raymond's ever going to get back to Christopher Howell because he's not even lifting out of the throttle. He's putting the clutch in. He's almost shutting that truck off. He's not safe on fuel. I thought it was a bit early for him to come down to pit road on lap 101. That was about 26 laps ago. And this is right around the point where we saw the pit stop window kicked off the last time. Christopher Howell, I guess, thinks he's safe because he's been pushing hard. And he is continuing to build that gap up to about 1 second now already in just about, 3-4 laps. Raymond, though, not the same story. He could very well lose the podium by the end of this race at this pace.
You mentioned it when he came in for his stop. You thought it might have been a little early. He was a 34 flat last time by, half second slower than your third place truck of Brennan Gregg. So Brennan really reeling him in right now as we're closing in on the end of this race. Raymond already has the win, as you see Ellis jumping into the pits right now. So you see one truck already jumping into the pits. And if I remember right, he pit about a lap earlier than Raymond. So that could be a telltale sign of Raymond right now, trying to salvage that truck, trying to get all the fuel mileage he can out of this truck to make it onto the podium. But there comes the battle right now with Brendan Gregg and that 27 truck closing that gap about a half second back now. This is going to get fun towards the end.
2 laps left to go in this race. Christopher Howell still showing no signs of lifting coast. He is continuing to just drive away with this race as he'll take 2 to go. Raymond falling back more and more towards Brennan Gregg as Gregg tries to make it an Average Joe Motorsports 1-2 finish. That'd be one heck of a way for them to wrap out the season. Trevor Trago will be trying to no doubt go after third, but Trago himself has dropped off. I think he is also in the same clutch and coast fuel safe mode that Aaron Raymond is as of current. Of course, Raymond, remember, doesn't have to worry. He has the championship. He locked that up last week at Madison, Illinois, and now he just has to run around 1.5 more miles, and this season will draw to its conclusion. White flag is in the air. Christopher Howell, will he have enough to make it back around? It's built out a gap of a good 2 seconds, but now he is starting to, I think, put in the clutch a little bit more as we work into turn numbers 1 and 2. Howell working the back straightaway, and he is continuing to see that gap close in more and more. Not like it's going to matter at all. He'll work out of 3 and 4. Ever since this season started, we knew that it was going to be a barn burner from Daytona. Howell works off the final corner. He wins the season finale in the TNGG IEL Truck Series Championship from the Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Great run for Christopher Howell. Aaron Raymond was able to hang on to that second spot. Here comes the battle for that 15th spot down the back straightaway right now.
Pillar's out.
Pillar's out. He must have ran out of fuel. Man, he did not lift and coast like these guys, but we're back up into that 13th spot with Thomas Lane and Robert Jordan coming off of turn 4.
Jordan's out.
Jordan's out. Man, that last caution flag that did not come out really did hurt these guys. They didn't plan out very, as you see the 90 truck of Greg Pillar trying to shake that truck out, trying to make it across the line one last time.
And Christopher Howell also out of fuel. He's being pushed by his teammate Brennan Gregg back around to the start-finish stretch. I think maybe tried to put in enough so that he could work his way back around, but I think even Brennan Gregg might be out of fuel a little bit here as well, as he'll pull to the inside. And Christopher Howell takes the honors of the final race win of the season. He may be runner-up in the championship, but he got the bragging rights here in this one. So what a phenomenal race overall it has been for all involved. We'll take a rundown of your official post-race results here from the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Christopher Howell with a great race win after one of the most thrilling races of the season, a fitting way to close out the championship. Aaron Raymond down in second. Brendan Gregg was third. Trevor Trago fourth. Caleb McNeil in fifth. Paul Witt was sixth. Scott Rankin was in seventh with Julian Ballou in eighth. Brad Slegg on ninth. John Holliday rounded out the top 10.
Finishing in the 11th spot was Dale Rapp. Thomas Lane Jr. finishing in 12th. Robert Jordan finishing in 13th. 14th spot goes to Mike Allen. Ryan Roberts in the 15th spot. Greg Pillar wiggled his way down that front straight at one final time to finish in the 16th spot. Then one lap down in 17th was John Buwalda Jr. Casey Ellis was able to make his way around in the 18th spot. Then you got a couple guys that disconnected early is Tristan Bear in 19th and Bobby Blowers with those blinking issues, rounding out your top 20.
What a great race it has been, and I think this is about as good as it could have been to round out what has been an absolutely phenomenal championship. We'll get the chance to talk to the top three at the end of the night, and we will kick things off with Christopher Howell joining us up here in the broadcast booth. Maybe runner-up at the championship, but he still will take himself the honors of the final race win of the season. Kind of walk us through this one, Christopher, because goodness gracious, this was a race win that you had to work for tonight.
Oh yeah, it was a battle, man. Just imagine if it came down to points, man. It would have been a hell of a championship battle down to the last lap. But hats off to Aaron. He deserves it. He got a lot of wins this season. I'm just glad that I finished it on a high note. I really wanted that win, and I went out there and got it. So hey, it was a good season. I was really consistent. Got some wins. It was a good season for myself and for my team, Average Show Motorsports.
You and Aaron pitted only one lap apart from each other, coming on down to that final set of pit stops. But while Raymond had to clutch and kills for a good chunk of those last 15 laps, you were able to pretty much just run it about as hard as you could towards the end, even though you ran out after the checkered flag. At what point did you realize you were going to be safe on field, even though you only pitted that lap later?
Oh, as soon as I pitted, I knew I was good because I knew the math. I knew what lap I needed to get to, and I was right on the money. I crossed the line. I was at 0.1 gallons, so I knew he was short even before he said anything in the race that he was clutching. I knew he was short. There's no way, you can go 2.5 miles, without enough fuel. That's a lap is 2.5 miles, so. I knew it. It was just a matter of time. So I just made sure I kept the pressure on him because I didn't want him to save too much, so it worked out.
The championship draws to a close, but that doesn't mean the race in action is finished yet at 2023, as, of course, the Super Speedway Blitz is going to be breaking up the winter months before we get racing for Season 5. Will we expect to see that Average Joe Motorsports #1 out and contending for the Winter Series Championship?
I'm not sure, Nolan. There's a lot going on here with the holidays coming up, Thanksgiving and Christmas. I can't say, I'll be there every week, but I'll try to be there. Maybe 1 or 2 races and just come out and see what kind of other drivers are coming into the league. And yeah, just have, put a filler out there, and hopefully some of my teammates show up too. So.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck then throughout those couple races. We'll wish you a happy holidays, and if we don't see you at the Super Speedway Blitz, we'll see you when we return to racing in Season 5.
Definitely see you race 1 next season.
That was Christopher Howell joining us up here in the broadcast booth. We'll move on down to the second-place finisher. Aaron Raymond will join us up next, and Mike, you're standing by with number 2.
Aaron Raymond, that was a heck of a battle you had going on today, and looked like you came in a little early for that final pit stop. When did you think you had enough in it? Were you waiting for a caution? How did that last pit stop work out for you?
I had no other choice. I had run it out there to the last lap I could, and I just had to save fuel that last stint and just had to give up the lead to come home second.
That Christopher chased you down super fast there towards the end, and we noticed that you were clutching really early. How much fuel did you have when you came across the checker flag there?
I was out.
Ran it dead to the end, but you were able to hold off Brendan Gregg. Were you still pushing hard towards the end there, or were you still clutching there on the last couple laps?
The second I took the white flag, I looked down, saw I had enough fuel to make it, so I went full push and was able to bring it home.
Nice. It looked like a good race from you today. You had. I wasn't here for all the season, but congratulate you on an amazing season you had. You had multiple wins and taking home that points championship. Did that change your mindset for racing today with already having the championship won? Did you change your mindset into this race at all?
No, I came in the same way I came in to every race weekend, looking for the win, and just came up a little bit short.
Great race from you today. Before we let you go, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before we let you loose?
I got to thank all the guys that put on this league. I know Thomas he does a great job with it. I gotta thank Nolan and you for putting on the great broadcast, and I gotta thank my family.
Awesome. Aaron, congratulations on a fantastic season and coming home second in this final race of the season. We look forward to seeing you next season.
Yep, thank you.
And that was your second place finisher of Aaron Raymond. Nolan, do you got anybody else in here?
Indeed, I do. We will have the third place finisher now. Brandon Gregg joins us up at the broadcast booth. Well, Brandon, you were really running down Aaron there in the last stages of the race. It looked like you were about, half a second behind at the line. Walk through the race as a whole, because for you, like so many others, it was up and down with several charges right through the midfield.
Yeah, at the start of the race, it was mostly just about trying to save tires, save a bit of fuel, and see if we couldn't extend the run a little bit. Off that first pit stop, I got spun through the pit lane by one of the other trucks. That kind of screwed me up on strategy a bit. Got the lucky dog, and then just kind of drove through the field from there. And then was trying to run Aaron down towards the end, but just didn't have enough time.
Overall, it was a race that was broken up by several cautions throughout the middle portions of this one, and a lot of that resulted in some of the fiercest dogfighting we've seen all season long. How did the cautions impact the strategy game at all tonight?
It made it really difficult with the fuel. That last run, I don't think, if we would have pitted probably a lap earlier, none of us would have made it. So that it was all about saving fuel for the most part. Last couple runs, it was just all trying to save fuel, save a bit of tires.
Looking to the future now that we've got Season 4 officially in the books, what's going to be the game plan for that number 27 Toyota Tundra working through the Super Speedway Blitz and into Season 5?
Not sure what the plan is right now for the Super Speedway Blitz, but for Season 5, I'm going to try and run a couple more races and see if I can't get into the championship fight.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck then, at least when we see you return come the new year. Congratulations on the third place finish for this final race. Thank you for joining us here tonight, Brennan.
Thank you.
As Brennan Gregg for the Average Joe Motorsports crew join us up here in the broadcast booth, and that was it. Our final podium interview complete in the 2023 TNGG IEL Truck Series season. I think overall, you look at how the season's been as a whole. It has been nonstop action from start to finish, and I mentioned this before at Worldwide Technology Raceway last week, Mike. In terms of this whole 28-race season, we've had, maybe 3-4 races where there hasn't been anything to note. Considering we have usually been around the high teens, low 20s in terms of car counts, that is impressive to me. And I can't wait to see what the new season is going to bring about, too.
No, I absolutely agree with you as well. I've only been in here for the last 2 races, and these last 2 bins have been just barn burners. I mean, the last week at the Worldwide Technology, we ran over 100 laps of green flag racing. That was just a fantastic race. Everybody going at it, nose to tail. But then this race here, we did have a couple sprinkled yellow flags in there, helped it out a little bit. But that last run, like all these guys have talked about, was saving fuel, saving tires to make that last run. And guys coming across the line with 0 miles left on them in the fuel tank. So great run, great finish. What a great season. Look forward to next season.
It's been a very long season. We kicked it off in April at Daytona. We will be kicking it off in Daytona again when we return for the TNGG IEL Super Speedway Blitz for the second rendition of what will end up being about an 8-race championship. That kicks off for the IEL Blitz 290 laps of racing action on November 11th, and that will run all the way through to January 6th. When we once again close it out at Daytona. We'll remain in Florida when we will then kick off the new season, I believe, coming around in March. All of that, though, and there's so much yet to come. The Pro Car Concepts Road Challenge Series will see its championship race this Monday night at the Daytona International Speedway, and the High Tide Racing League MF Racing Designs Cup Series will also see the conclusion of its regular series season when we go racing in Hampton, Georgia at Atlanta Motor Speedway just immediately after. All of that and so much more is coming on from us at Green Flag TV. We want to thank TNGG for taking us on board and putting on what has been a phenomenal show from start to finish. We want to thank the drivers for turning up and being enthusiastic week in, week out with the racing. I want to thank both DJ Clark and Mike Braun for assisting me in covering the portions of this season. It has been such a great show, and it would not have been possible without them. And of course, we want to thank all of you for joining us from start to finish, from the first lap at Daytona to the final lap here in Miami. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on Monday night back in Palm Beach country down at Daytona.